interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
On this episode, guest Adrian, Gerben, and Max talk about their upcoming W8S DXpedition to Swains Island.
And having fun, and that worked out. So next is having fun in the South Pacific.
Absolutely. So next up for you guys is Swains Island, W8S. What did it take to prepare for that? And I know that it's got an interesting history. And who did you have to get permission from to go there?
Well, Swains Island is a private island, is owned by the Jennings family. And so they are some of the, that's the first step to get permission. It's a lot of negotiation involved. The team leaders have been trying to figure out the best way to get this done for the past 7 years. I think that's when the negotiations started. Then we had the COVID, and you can only get there by boat, and when a boat is involved, things get extremely complicated when because of logistics and cost. So every little detail has to be thought out and taken care of. Gerben was one of the people in the team that was involved pretty deeply with the negotiations and figuring out the best way to get 10 people to this remote island. So maybe Gerben, you want to take over?
I would say Hans, our team leader, reached out to Alex Jennings, as he is the owner, and without his permission, you could maybe land on the island, but that would never count for Swains from a radio operation. So many years went by until he reached the contract, and we all got together in 2020. We packed all the boxes, everything was okay, and then a measles epidemic started in American Samoa, so we had to go to the doctor to get some jabs, to protect ourselves. Then the boat was damaged due to a hurricane. Had to go to Honolulu for repair, and then Corona came and travel restrictions and so on. So, it was a long way, until May this year that we got a new contract and that we could travel again and so on. So, and I must say, in 2020 we were ready because the boxes were about to be shipped. We had 4 boxes with equipment, and we just could stop that before we finally knew that we couldn't go. But now in May we could start again, and it was not a matter, just put those boxes together and that's it. I mean, we decided we put 2 more stations on the air. We had more antennas. We do 6 meter. We do EME. We had different operators, and this time I must say, because I was talking with a few of the team members that were involved in the beginning, we said, what do we do different now than in 2020? Because, we spent so much time on preparing everything, but I think it's more and better prepared than in 2020. I mean, we have labeled everything for each camp. We have a red and a blue camp. All the items are labeled. All the cables are the same. We have all the same radios and amplifiers. So the whole aim is that once we end up in the island, on the island, we can distribute the boxes to the camps, and we can start installing, and it's all straightforward. At least that's the idea at this moment. We will report later if it will be executed like that, but that's the whole idea. So we spent an awful lot of time, and all the team members got responsibility for certain activities, and we had every 2 weeks a Zoom call, a progress call to see, where are we, what is blocking, and so on. And I think we're all ready now to go there.
Awesome. What kind of boat are you taking out? It's not a sailboat like Adrian took down to down to Bouvet, is it?
No, it's a big one. It's a vessel from the government. It's a vessel that actually distributes food supplies and building materials to all the outlying islands. And that has been chartered, to bring us to Swains. They put us on the island and then they go back. And after 2 weeks, they come back again to pick us up. So it's really a huge ship. I think they can carry at least 100 passengers, although it's not really a passenger ship, but it's rather large, I would say.
Yeah, it's a supply boat for the area.
Okay.
Run by the American Samoa government.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I getting the equipment on the island is going to be easier than it was at Bouvet for sure.
Yeah, that's true. We do have a lot of equipment as well. Lots of antennas and 6 stations plus a 7th one for EME and some backup equipment as well. We want to cover a lot of bands, and we want to give a new one to a lot of ham operators around the world. So no matter how you take it to do so, you do have a lot of equipment. Now, obviously, a bigger boat and crew, it does help with the unloading and setting up the camp. As part of the contract, we're getting tents and everything set up, or help us set up the camp. As Gerben was mentioning, we have 2 separate camps that we labeled the red camp and the blue camp. There's actually a very interesting diagram on our website that shows it correctly. And the distance between them, yep, that's the one. And the distance between the camp is about 500 meters. That allows us to separate the stations so we can work, SSB and CW in the same time, in the same band, from 2 different camps, and also allows us to even to place the EME antenna in such a way so there's no interference with the rest of the HF operation. Alex Jennings would also provide those called ATV, small little vehicles that will allow us to move from camp to camp and move with the heavy items. We'll have a lot of generators so that we can use, really high power. One of the additions, the recent addition, are the RF kit amplifiers made in Germany. We're given and loan a couple of these amplifiers. They work really well, and in addition with the expert ones that we have already, planning to make a lot of big noise in the bands.
Absolutely, and the addition of the 6-meter EME, that's going to be entertaining for sure. That's going to be fun.
Well, it will be for the first time. EME will be QSOs will be made from Swains Island, so obviously a lot of EME enthusiasts will be hitting the airwaves in the hopes to get a new one in their logs. The expedition to these islands are so rare that if you don't catch it now, it's going to be another 10, 15, maybe 20 years until the next one shows up. They're also very expensive, so it's not like you could do it every year, even if you would get the approval. We have a budget of about $125,000, and that's a lot of money by any standards.
Absolutely. How's the fundraising coming for that? Are you guys fully funded?
Yeah, so we're almost close, so we're still looking for donations. So our website is swains2003.com, 2023.com, and there's a nice PayPal button there for those that want to help us and support us. They're welcome. We're close to our goal, and obviously, whatever it's not covered from donations, the operators will be the ones putting the difference. So the more help we can get, the better for the operators that actually take the heat, literally and physically. Considering it's going to be over 100 degrees. Actually, 100 degrees Fahrenheit will be a good day on Swains.
100 degrees and giant mosquitoes.
Yes.
That's what everybody.
And also giant coconut crabs.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
no, they are.
But also,
very
our
good.
our camps are going to be connected by a network. We're going to have Wi-Fi, and hopefully we'll have Starlink. Actually, Max, that's present here from the team, he was one of the ones in charge of the IT, let's say. So he can give us a couple of details as well.
Yeah, just on that front, there'll be a we've got some. I'm not involved so much with the Wi-Fi equipment between the two camps, but we're using some commercial Wi-Fi equipment to keep things going from both camps. We'll be running N1MM on all the stations for logging, and we hope to keep that network up and running, which is difficult. Adrian has mentioned that a number of times. Difficult to do on these DXpeditions, but we hope to have every station see every QSO so we can kind of see what's going on from every position. All the other radios will be Elecraft K3s or K3Ss. And Adrian, are you doing the EME with the Elecraft or your Flex? I can't remember what you ended up there doing.
We could try both, but I am bringing a Flex 6700 to dedicate for this. So this will be a separate from all the other K3Ss that run the normal HF operation.
Okay. Are you guys going to be running 24 hours, or are you going to be taking time off?
No,
well, they have 6 stations, and 7th if you count the EME, but only 10 operators. So what's the schedule going to be like for that?
well, it's 10 operators to cover 6 stations is not a problem, and EME unfortunately only works in certain days, so it's not a intense hourly, a lot of hours there. But you have to keep in mind the main thing. This is not a vacation, so we're not going there to sleep under the coconut trees. Everybody's excited to get into the pileups. Usually, what happens is in the expedition is hard to find an available station because usually the shifts are 3 to 4 hours. So this way, you get the chance to go eat and sleep a little bit and move around and do other things. But it's 24/7. That's you have to take advantage of every possible minute when you are there, because it's an expensive operation. So the 2 weeks that we get on the island have to be used at the maximum. So we'll do the vacationing after we return.
A shift plan, so that means for all the operators that there are certain periods that you have to be operating. That's at least for 4 of the stations, and the other 2, so that means in each camp we have 1, let's say, spare, we could call it. That's a station that everyone can use, when they're not on duty, but still fit or have the appetite to make more QSOs. Or some operators that are operating SSB, they could maybe also run FT8 on that 3rd station. So let's say 4 stations are permanently manned by the shift plan, and the 3rd one will be occupied by those who have an appetite to do so, or by one of the operators on duty.
What's the QSO goal for the expedition?
Well, I would be thrilled with 100K.
Yeah,
which is possible, right? If everything goes smooth. That's Gerben and Adrian can comment on that.
Well, let's you want to make a goal to make as many QSOs as possible, but I think in the expeditions, one of the main goals is to give a new one to the ones that actually need it. So I think it will be better to to spend more time doing old-time new ones than to try to put more bend fills for the ones that have already Swains Island in their logs, and maybe they have a big station, the so-called big guns that can easily get 8-10 slots into the log. So
he wanted to see how it was streaming, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys lost me.
Back.
You're back.
I don't know how you lost it. I make an experiment where I'm streaming through the Starlink internet dish that's gonna go onto Swains Island, and rain just started pretty intensely now, and the dish moved a little bit, so to look for a better satellite. So I guess I lost a few seconds, but if all goes well, we will have internet connection on the island and be able to upload the logs daily to Club Log.
Hey, one thing maybe to comment on the FT mode operating, at least, and I'm bringing that up because I'm watching T22T right now in Tuvalu, That Rebel DX group is there right now. And if you look at the QRZ page, it's kind of it's a little confusing on how they're operating the FT modes. And they're only, for example, right now, there may be another website. I don't mean to disparage anybody, but they're only sending reports. So apparently you send like an R10 to them, and if they send you a report, you're supposed to put them in the log. That's it. But we will go strictly with WSJTX in Fox and Hound mode, other than 6 meters, and Adrian can comment on that. So there will be no question whatsoever as to how we will be operating and how you expect an exchange to take place on the FT modes.
Okay, great. Are the rest of your operating plan available on the website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, all the details are on the website. We have the our plan, band plan with the exact frequencies where we are attempting to transmit and receive. That clearly marks exactly what we're going to be. We worked quite a bit. We put a lot of effort into this because there will be a couple of other DXpeditions going on at the same time. So we try to make it in such a way so that we take in consideration the other DXpeditions so we don't interfere with each other. And so this band plan is very important to look at when looking to make a QSO with Whiskey 8 Sierra.
Fantastic.
How do you choose what band and mode you're going to operate on once you're at the island? Is that something that's pre-planned through propagation charts, or is it just experience, or do you just see how the bands are acting that day?
Well, one of our team members have done a lot of work on the propagation forecast. So he has now put sheets, he laminated the sheets so that we can put it on our desk. And of course, we will discuss this also on our way to American Samoa. So we have that on hand so that we at least understand what kind of openings we have. Apart from that, we have our pilot stations who will also give us feedback on certain things. And obviously, we have to see, what happens when we are in real time working the world, what happens. So we have it planned. You can also go to our website where you can fill in your location, and then you get a prediction from your location. So that's pre-arranged for Swains. So there are various ways that you can, exactly.
That's really cool. That's the first time I've seen a DXpedition put something like that out.
You have to be prepared when you get there. You can't, you got to use the time wisely. So
absolutely.
Propagation prediction is very, very useful, like Gerben said. But he also will be in touch with the pilots. That's their job to tell us if there is an unusual opening towards their continent or their area. So although the propagation prediction might say, so propagation at this time on 12 meter, if the pilot reports back and says band wide open, we get the message. So we tell the operator to, switch bands or push power or whatever it takes to take advantage of the unexpected propagation openings. Obviously, 12 meter, 15, 17, it will be open most of the time. We are now in the climbing part of the solar cycle, so that's to our advantage. Probably 20 meters will be open, 20 to 22 hours a day. So that's, a given. This is where the small pistols can always look for, that one slot, one QSO, one that desired QSOs.
That'll be me. I didn't want one on sideband and one on CW. That's all I need.
It seems like a pretty good sweet spot as far as the time of year too, right? We're not plagued with some of the problems you have in the summer. We're starting to see the high bands. Well, the last few days, of course, it's been a mess with the storm, but it's a better time of year for all the bands, really, right? You start to see some of the low bands come back too. So hopefully we'll have a lot of activity across the bands.
Yeah, October, November is always good for propagation because you get both the low bands and the high bands. And of course, we're going to be there for weeks. It could be, one day that's bad on this band or the other, but over the period of the time that we're there, we definitely, for somebody trying to get us in the log, we'll definitely be able to find a spot where a time when, things are better for his or her location.
So I've always been curious with DXpeditions, how much of this gear is yours? How much is it on loan? How much is it given to you by sponsors? I mean, because they've taken a heck of a lot of gear down here, it looks like.
And is it all new, or is some of it used? You reused from past DXpeditions?
If I can say something about that, I mean, all the equipment that we have, or nearly all the equipment, is owned by the operators.
Oh, wow.
So all the K3s, all the SBEs, the 2 RF kits we got on loan, and most of the high power bandpass filters from 4OSCA 3 Alpha are owned by the team, and only I think 3 we got on loan from Wemo and 4OSCA 3 Alpha. All the coax cable was from all the operators. It's mainly from the Dutch operator because we are close together and that's easier to test stuff. We had a field day for antenna testing. Obviously, we could do that with the German guys and the Dutch guys because we are in the same proximity. But most of it is owned. So we got some donation from DX Engineering. But I think that's mostly all. So we made a lot of antennas ourselves, the VDAs for different bands. Obviously, the hex beam was purchased. Yeah, exactly. That's where we were testing some of the stuff. And the point is also when we arrive on the island, everything needs to be set up. So the base camp that Alex Jennings is providing, the sleeping quarters where we will put our small tents, mosquito tents. And then we have the 2 tents for the operation that we going to set up. So you can see we have to move all that equipment for quite a distance. And then depending on what time we land on the island and how much time is left, because it will be dark around 6 o'clock local time, what can we set up? And we have to choose then the right antenna so that we can operate for the rest of the day, but also during the night and so on. So that probably will take 2 days, I guess, to get all our antennas. We have 17 antennas divided over the two camps. So it's quite a job to do that in the heat. So yeah, you will have to see. Maybe there is 1 or 2 stations active from the beginning. Because if we have stations that are ready and antennas, then some people can start and the others will still build on the rest of the antennas.
17 antennas. So how many of those are directional?
We have for 6 meter, obviously, a Yagi. Then we have the hex beam, which we used in combination with a combiner. So for 10, 15 and 20, and that will be used on the hex beam. Sure. And for the rest, we have VDAs, and for 40 and 80 and 160 meters, we have verticals. And
right.
For one in the red camp, for 40 meters, we have phased verticals.
Phased verticals.
You could see, you could see it over there. At least if you can. Yeah. And then for receiving, we have the K9 AYs.
Okay.
On both camps.
Yep. So that is definitely a huge commitment from the operators to put a DXpedition together using their own equipment. But that's also nice because you're used to using that equipment. You've used it at your home on other DXpeditions, so it's not so much of a learning curve once you get to the island.
Well, it's when you go to a lot of the expeditions, most of the team members did go to a lot of the expeditions in the past, you kind of accumulate equipment, and it turns out these aircraft K3Ss are one of the most popular because they're really high performance and they're very light and easy to take with you. So if almost every team member has one, then it's a no-brainer that you just choose that radio to take with you. Everybody brings 1 or 2 of these radios. They're all identical, so it's easy to go from one to another. We'll have all settings the same on all the radios, and so that's why in many cases, like in particular this one, a lot of the equipment that we're bringing is actually our own, and very little needed to be loaned or purchased. As Gerben said, most of the equipment that we're bringing is our personal stuff.
Hey, one thing to mention there, Adrian, is Elecraft was helpful in working with us to make sure all of the K3, K3Ss, were similar in the configurations, because as you know, the K3S is out of production now, but they still are picking up on some of the add-ons. Anyway, they were helpful.
Right,
I didn't know them directly, but maybe you did.
Yeah, the different sponsors or manufacturers that supports us is not necessarily that they give a radio or a loan, but they also can help you with parts and logistics and many other things. So it doesn't mean that you don't need their support. So yeah, you're correct. Just like DX Engineering, Elecraft, and those German amplifiers, even though they're on loan, they're quite expensive pieces. So it's almost probably at least $10,000. So a company that gives you on loan something that's $10,000, it's still a company that takes a risk and supports you, and they give you, input of what needs to be done, how do you adjust it for your equipment. So it's a lot of back and forth. It's not like you go in the store and get it and put it in your bag.
Understand.
Yeah, and maybe also good to say that one of our team members was actually responsible for making all the connections between the radios and the amplifiers and the filters and all those kind of things. So all the cables are made on the right length with the right connectors on each side, even with labels on it saying this should go into the K3 accessory port and this goes to the SPE and so on. So that means everything, yeah, exactly. That's where you see. So all the cables are. We know exactly what kind of plug on one side is and what on the other, how long they are, and where they should get into. So it is all, I would say, simple in the sense that all the radios have the same cables and the amplifier. So if we need to exchange something because the radio or an amplifier is faulty, you can easily replace it. And so everything is the same. So we are familiar how to operate, and we hope that with this, we actually can spend as much as time on making QSOs rather than figuring out how things work or how we have to put cables on it.
Yeah. With all the equipment being close to the same for almost all of it, are the PCs the same as well, or you have a mismatch of PCs?
Now, even the PCs, that is also where Max is working on. Maybe you can tell, but that's also what we make all the same.
Yeah, well, the actual manufacturers of the PCs, several are the same, but as far as the software installs and trying to use the same directory structures, we've put some effort into that. And actually, our time in American Samoa will be, we have some extra time there, which will be helpful. We'll set up the network with all the PCs, make sure everything is working as best we can, make sure the software versions matched. All the UDP messaging, everything going on between WSJTX and N1MM, for example, get everything working there as best we can.
Very cool. Oh, boxes.
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, it takes a lot of equipment to put a show like this. So, and there's no Radio Shack on the island. There's actually nobody on the island. So, if you forgot something, this is it. So everything has to be packed properly. When you open it up, you know exactly where it goes. Does it go to the blue camp or the red camp? In the heat of a battle, if everything is labeled and color-coded and as much as possible identical, you spend less time setting up equipment and more time in the pileups.
Hey, I've got to call out one thing, Adrian. When I went to Djibouti, J28MD, being in the States, I was a little bit on the side. So the guys with the Mediterranean DX Club took care of a lot of that, right? I mean, as far as the antennas, and it's just amazing and overwhelming to me because I'm kind of coming in from a distance, but we have to recognize the work that the Dutch hams, in Netherlands and Germany, the meetings that they've made, creating, the boxing, the setting up of the antennas, breaking down, testing. I really need to call out the heavy lifting, as I would call it, that's been done there. Where I've maybe been able to help with PCs and software, the amount of work, I don't appreciate it even at this point because I'm not there. So I want to call it out.
Unfortunately, I'm retired, so I can spend some time on it.
Still, though, it's, joining with you over the last several months, right? You get a bigger appreciation seeing what's going on there. And they've been working on this for years now to make this happen.
Yeah. So the amplifiers and the radios, are those traveling with you guys and not in the boxes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all carry extra suitcases, with this kind of equipment.
Sure.
And that's also a bit of a puzzle because, we are not all living at the same place. And we have 3 guys from Germany and we have 5 in the Netherlands. But most of the suitcases are here in the Netherlands. But then we have to distribute. But some people, need to move on after Swains directly to another location. So they cannot have an extra suitcase. So even that is a puzzle.
So basically, one of the things that we're a team of 10 members, and 2 are from North America, 2 from Germany, and the rest from the Netherlands. We're all going to be flying next week into Hawaii, and that's where the team is going to meet. We'll stay one day there, and then from there we will fly into Pago Pago in American Samoa. That's a long flight as well. And once we get into American Samoa, we have a lot of work to do. We have 3 days there. We'll be spending, doing some shopping, mostly for heavy items, things that will be too expensive to transport with us or send by UPS or whatever. We do, we have to decide for some of the latest details. And as Max was saying, we might do the latest configuration to the computers. And then 3 days later, we will be loading the ship that's going to take us to Swains Island. The boat trip takes about 24 hours. So not a long trip, but still a trip. So we're planning to land on Swains Island sometime on October 4th. The exact details when we go on the air depends on the tides and the weather and the time we arrive on the island. But as Gerben was saying, we're going to try to put up a show at least for the station or 2 as soon as possible, so that we can get going with the pileups.
So that if you look at the travel schedule, we should be operating just under 2 weeks, right? But all the operators will be gone 3.5 weeks. So there's
setup time, get home time, travel time, all of that tied in.
Yep. It adds up a day here, 3 days here, another day there. So when you put it all together, we're going to be away from home almost a month. Hard to believe, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a lot harder for the most of the team that's from Europe because their flight time is even longer. And as Max was saying, the team met in Netherlands a few times to test every piece of equipment, especially the antennas before they were packed. Those pictures that you're showing earlier with the boxes are actually pictures taken in the Netherlands, and one of our team members, QTH. So yeah, you see testing here, coils, antennas, 80 meters, 160. You just can't leave anything to the chance.
Right. Well, I'm sure that, once you guys get there, that things will go well, hopefully, for you, and you won't have too many issues with getting things set up. The boxes, obviously, they're shipping freight to Hawaii or directly to American Samoa.
Well,
Okay.
it looks like how you send IP package
Uh-huh.
around the globe. You want to send something from the Netherlands to Germany, but it will travel around the globe. As that seems to be the most logic way. That happened also with these boxes. I mean, they ended up in Alaska and in China, and the good thing is we put tags in all these boxes so we can really follow where they are. It makes us also a bit nervous, that sometimes they are not even all together. Hopefully, they will end up in American Samoa just in time.
Yeah, we've even shipped some things through the States, like Ellicraft, right? I'm close to in Utah. I'm close to California, of course, and so we ship some of that equipment to me, and then I ship it to the Netherlands, but it goes through Australia. We had one package that took 2 months, Gerben. We couldn't believe it.
I got it just last week.
Yeah.
That was the KIO boards that we had to put in 3K3, so it became a bit critical, because if I would not receive that in time, then we had to bring micro ham boxes for the interfacing. But obviously we would love to see all the K3s having a USB interface, and that's the case now. So we well done, but that's a bit last moment, I would say.
Gerben, what's your flight plans? How are you getting from the Netherlands over to Hawaii?
We flying from Amsterdam to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And then to Hawaii.
Okay.
And then to Pago. I mean, in 2020 it was a completely different trip, because then we went the other way around. So we went to Singapore and Australia, and and then to Samoa, and then the last stretch was a short flight from Samoa to American Samoa. But that turned out to be a lot more expensive these days than it was in that time. So now we had a good alternative. Now we also meet all together in Hawaii, so that's also a good thing.
And that's direct from Amsterdam to Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Holy smoke. Well, you go over the pole. I guess it makes it that shorter. Okay. Yeah.
It's good, it's better than, changing all the time airports.
Yeah.
It's good for the bags as well. It's good for the bags as well, because a direct flight guarantees that you're not going to have your bags ending up somewhere else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What tips do you have for a ham who's running 100 watts in a wire to make a contact with W8S?
Move to the West Coast. It's the only time we get to have an edge up on Europe and the East Coast is when we have DXpeditions in the Pacific. I couldn't resist. But
I worked KH8 from here not too long ago on sideband and CW, and the first CW I was running just 35 watts. Sideband I was running a full 1,000, but I didn't have too much trouble working on CW. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this one in the log. Well, we've got Adrian's email. We'll email him. Hey, Adrian, get on the radio.
Actually, the hard path, right, is our friends in Europe, I think. So
yes,
we'll have to keep an eye on European openings, and we may need to focus on Europe because, out here, anything in the Pacific is.
Well, and I'm sure you're going to get a wall of sound coming out of Japan.
Yes. Yeah, we have to go over the pole, which also makes it a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But I just found a piece of paper, which was very old, but that's where someone was explaining how do you work DX, and I think it's 40 years old or so, but it's so relevant for today. It's listen, and listen. Understand how the operator works. I mean, for myself, I'm just doing only CW, and I cannot say because the pileups will be huge. I've never experienced a pileup like what we will get next week, but I tend to put, let's say, 1 or 2 KCs up, and I try to stay there as long as I can instead of dialing on my VFO after every QSO, because then you miss maybe 1 or 2 letters and you have to repeat again. So people should know that. So if you listen to the operator and you understand how he is operating, that's the way you can increase your chances to work someone. So it's very much first listening for a while so that you understand what's the operating practice of the guy on the radio, and yeah, that's it. I mean, there will always be louder stations and people who are disturbing everything. We have to live with that, but listening makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, there's some strategies that you can use if you're a small pistol as well. You basically go to our website, check out the propagation. You see, okay, a specific time there looks like it's going to be propagation, let's say in 20 meters. Well, you're going to know that the expedition is going to be on 20 meters at that time. So you park yourself there and watch the RBN. The moment you see the first CQ, you could be the first one there before the pileup, before needing to do any extra work. So a little bit of strategy like this will take you, a long way. And then, you keep doing this a few times and you can get in a few bends. There's no way you cannot get in the log. If you listen to the operator, if you watch the propagation, if you look at the RPN, I mean, the clusters are also useful, but if a post is on a cluster, that means already the pileup has started. So then your operating skills get into effect, and what Gerben just said makes sense. You also have to maybe get in touch with the pilots from your area and ask them, when it's a good time for me to be there if you're not good at reading propagation and so forth. But so a little bit of legwork goes a long way, even for those that just have a wire in an attic and 100 watts. And of course, CW gives you an advantage over SSB because you need less power. And in the worst case scenario, you still have the FT8 and you just keep clicking.
Well, and you have to be patient. You can't call 3 or 4 times to get frustrated and walk out of the room. Does you no good. I mean, if you're a little pistol, I found that out early on, chasing DX as a 100-watt station and just a little vertical antenna. I mean, I might have to sit there for an hour and keep calling, at the right time and try to keep breaking the pile up. And eventually, the pileup will thin a little bit here and there, and you can get in there, but there's a lot of patience involved with that, and a lot of seat in the butt in the seat time with that.
BIC, button chair.
BIC, yeah, button chair.
Hey,
But maybe also the first few days, I think the pilots will be incredible. So maybe you just wait a couple of days, and then try to take your chance, because hopefully in the first couple of days all the big shots have done their work, and it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, John, along those lines, as far as a little pistol getting through, on the DX side, on our side, right, every operator is going to be a little different, and I'm speaking here specifically for CW. I know Adrian likes to have a pretty open band pass, 2 to 2.5 kilohertz, and I'll do the same thing. So you think the DX station is moving around, right, with a narrow filter. That's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be listening to 2 kilohertz, for example. And my experience, it depends on the operator. I may be picking off those high tone calls right off the ends of the band pass. And so if you're smart, right, you could actually go down a little bit below 1 kilohertz up, and eventually we may get tired of being way up there, 8 kilohertz or whatever. We come all the way back down to 1 or 2 kilohertz up, and we'll pick those weak guys off, below 1 kilohertz sometimes. If you're just below a kilohertz or way up high, you just have to kind of figure out what that particular operator is doing. It's rare that they're consistent, right?
Right.
Also, in places like this in the Pacific, on the islands where there's no human traffic, let's say, human, there's no noise, RF noise at all. We can hear very well. So all the DX, all the operator has to do to get the DX in the log is figure out a spot where it's empty. There's nobody else there. And then the operator on the DXpedition can hear you, no problem. He doesn't have an issue with the noise, as opposed to the person on the continent, working from a city or so forth. So it's not an issue of us hearing you. It's just you placing yourself in a spot that gives you an advantage. First of all, don't transmit on top of somebody else. And then he used these little tricks like Max was just mentioning, try to get into the bypass, filter of the operator.
Yeah,
But it's interesting to hear what Max was just explaining about CW, because I'm also listening on a wide filter. And as I said earlier, I try not to touch the dial to move, to listen for another station. But if you have a wide filter, and you actually take, let's say, a 400 hertz signal, you will always see, that after that QSO, all the people will jump on that same frequency that I hear as 400 hertz. But if there is another guy who is 1 kc up, it's a high pitch, and I can easily take it out of the pile up without dialing, because it's just my ears that make that shift, and that shift can be done instantly. And with your VFO, you can't do that. So that's actually the way that works quite well to a certain extent, because if the pilot gets too crazy, then even that doesn't work anymore. But that's something to consider, that if you see that people transmit on a certain frequency and I work that station, just go a little bit higher so that I can hear the pitch and I can work those stations.
Yeah, I tend to, if I'm trying to chase somebody, I tend to stay on that same frequency that I started on, because if you're jumping around in that pass band that the operator's looking at, and everybody, all of a sudden he's 1.4, okay, everybody moves to 1.4 because they can see him on the scope or hear him. I stay where I'm at. Half the pile thins away because they've all moved. You can hear me above them. But
yeah, that's another strategy that really works out. Yeah.
But to Gerben's point, when he talked about waiting a couple days, I could tell you from being an operator in 13 colonies and having the pilots we get for that, not that they're going to be anything what you're seeing in Swains, but they die down after a couple of days. People get your call in the log, and they're off just doing something else. And so that's third, fourth day, it starts to die off a little bit. It won't for you guys, obviously, because you're going to be, Swains has been activated in 25, 30 years. So you guys will be looking at huge pileups the whole time, I think.
But that's always a bit of a difficult decision. You want to wait a couple of days so that it becomes a bit easier. But if we have a problem or something happens, and we know from recent DXpeditions, then you're just too late because they are not there anymore. So it's a bit of a challenge to judge how long to wait, but not too long, because you have another risk.
There's some other good tricks are changing up the speed again. CW.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these operators, right, are going to be able to copy 40 words a minute or whatever. And let's say we're running at 34, 35, 37, 38, and you're not having any success. You might just throw your call out really fast sometimes, and we'll pick that off, especially if it's quick, or slow down a little slower. Just change it up, I think, can be helpful.
Yeah,
you just have to be different than the other guys, trying to get in. You need to have something different, either the pitch, the speed, the place where you put your signal on, and so forth. It's just about strategy, like I said.
Yeah,
I've noticed that on SSB too. Even the cadence you throw your call sign out at can make a difference. I noticed that if you're hearing that, as soon as you throw your call sign out, there's some trailing ones. Slow down a little bit, and your call sign has gotten me picked up before as well. So sometimes that helps.
Yeah,
and only full call signs.
Yeah, full call signs, and stick with standard phonetics, or at a minimum countries names for phonetics. Some of these crazy phonetics just it's unbelievable. I'm not a great sideband operator. I can hold my own, but I know there's much better sideband guys out there than me. But I'm sure I'll end up doing some sideband.
Yeah. What can operators do to help you during the DXpedition?
Wow, I'm more of a rookie as far as anybody's a rookie compared to Adrian and his 33rd DXpedition, or whatever this is. But dupes, Djibouti. If you know you're in the log, right? If you know you're in the log, don't call us again, especially if you have a big station. It was unbelievable in Djibouti how many of the big guns were calling me over and over. Put them in the log 5 times, really? Do we, we can't control that. And if it's an all-time new one for you, you want to make sure you're in the log, but try to avoid that.
Well, you guys are going to be live on Club Log, aren't you? So as you
Yes.
upload, you'll be able to
We'll
check
be
numbers later,
Yeah,
right?
we'll be uploading daily. That's the goal, to upload daily. So if you worked us, and you're not sure you're in the log, just wait a day. And if you do try to get us, try a different band. This way, don't take the chance of somebody else of getting in the log.
Yeah, that's
And
just rude.
also, it's one of the other important things that I would like the operators to do is listen to what the expedition operator is saying. If he says he wants to work Europe, please let him work Europe or North America, whatever, because he has a good reason for that. That means he is seeing an opening. He may be seeing a rare opening, even though you feel like you're entitled because you can hear him now finally or whatever. Please let the operator decide. In the end, he can see things a lot better from his end. And that speeds up the process instead of transmitting on top of somebody else or just be in top of the game. Listen to what the operator has to directed you to do.
Be a courteous operator, right?
Yes, if he's calling for somebody with the Sierra or Charlie in the call and you have none of those letters in the call, please don't call. It's
I can sit here and listen to those, as I call them, ID10T problems. They
That's a famous call sign.
yeah, ID10T, but they sit out there and they'll just, you hear them all the time. They call and call and call. They're nowhere near what the operator's calling back for, and they just keep calling it. It's like, come on, guys, or they definitely cannot copy you, right? And they're just putting their call
put it up from the cluster. That's the whole
and it's
problem.
like, why are you even throwing your? If you can't copy the guy, you're never going to hear him come back to you. So why are you even in there? But it frustrates me to no end. I've got little tolerance for bad operators.
My pet.
I would suggest not to become a policeman, because policemen in general create the same or even more QRM. So just refrain from doing that. And what I also experienced, that some people sending their call sign constantly until you come back for them, and then they stop. But that means it's constant QRM, because you listen to other signals and they simply make a QRM. So it's a kind of bad habit, I would say, to just switch on sending your key, your call sign all the time. That doesn't help. It's not a way for success from my point of view.
In the end, the best thing to do to get us in the log, check our website, check our Facebook page. Our news section will have the latest things there. We have a person in charge of social media, so a lot of updates are there. You could be smart by seeing exactly when we're going to go on the air and get us before the pileup starts. So check our website, and don't avoid that PayPal button. It's very useful to support us. That's how things get done. We already contributing quite a bit on time and effort and resources to go there and get the this rare DX entity on the air. And you never know, a lot of interesting things could be posted there. So watch out for the news.
Fantastic.
Also, along with that too, obviously making QSOs are the #1 goal here for us. But if we do have good internet connectivity, you might want to search YouTube during the expedition. We may have some opportunities to post something there. I think it'll end up on the website too, but we'll see how it goes, right? That's secondary to the queues.
Understand that. Well, we wish you all safe travels and good luck, and log them all, especially log me. But
let's see, NJ4Z and
yeah.
KD5W. It's like plus 30 dB when you call us, right?
Well, guys, thank you very much for doing this with us. It was definitely our pleasure.
Yep. I know you guys have a lot going on, so thanks for the time. Do
If you
appreciate
got the time afterwards, we'd love to do a recap of how it went.
That's definitely. Thanks for having us, and definitely looking forward to seeing you again, maybe after the DXpedition, and tell you how it went.
Yep.
Well, like I said, watch the the news section of our website and our Facebook page. If anything good comes out of that Starlink, it will be posted there first.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.